Cade Klubnik and Antonio Williams were already dangerous last year, but in 2025, they could be one of the best duos in college football. That's all coming up right now on Locked on Clemson.
You are Locked on Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Tiger fans? Morgan Thomas here, Clemson fan, Clemson grad, host and producer of this show, and part-time host and producer over on 105.5 FM, The Roar. Thank you so much for making Locked on Clemson your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. And if you're new to the show, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you never miss an episode. You know how we do it here on Locked On. Exclusive Clemson content Monday through Friday, every single week. And don't forget to follow me in between episodes over on X at The Morgan T Show, where we can talk about all things Clemson whenever you want. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel, and go check them out, FanDuel.com. Today's show, we're going to talk about Cade Klubnik and Antonio Williams, and a future defensive star that we hinted about yesterday in Amare Adams, and also the matchup that starts the season off big, LSU in Death Valley, Clemson, South Carolina. Thank you so much for being a part of the show again. Here we are halfway through May, so we're getting closer and closer, hopefully getting you through till we get to spot the ball in football season. I'm glad you're here with me this spring, summer period. We're going to continue to get our discussion in, hype you up as much as you can so you can be the most informed fan, Clemson fan out there. And I wanted to get started because Cade Klubnik and Antonio Williams have obviously been getting some traction in the national media. You know, Cade Klubnik last year, 308 completions, 3,639 yards, 63.4 completion percentage, 36 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions, and had a rating of 148.2 overall. And then Antonio Williams was his number one team leading receiver in 904 yards. Man, 9,000, that would be great. 904 yards on 75 receptions, 12.1 yards average, and 11 touchdowns, leading the way by far, almost double of everybody outside of Jake Brenningstool on the list there. So how will they be in 2025? A lot of experts are saying that they could be one of the best, and they're not just one of the best, but could be the best combo in college football. And they could dominate not only the ACC and their opponents, but be one of the best in, the nation. Now, Clemson and Cade Klubnik had a great season last year. How much more can Antonio Williams and Cade Klubnik improve? Can Cade improve by 10, 20%? You're talking about 10% would be throwing Cade at a 4,000-yard season. Is that out of the realm of possibility? I don't think so. After multiple years with Garrett Riley, now that you have one of the most tenured teams in the country, and you have weapons all around you, to me, I think it makes more sense that Cade would have, closer to 40 touchdowns, maybe even over 40 touchdowns, as he did have 36 last season. As far as passing yards, I could see him having 4,000 yards passing or close to that. So adding in just 360 would put him at the 400 yards. So we just need to be 10% more productive than he was last season. And I think that I'm going to say I count on that. I count on Cade to be 10% more productive than he was last season in 2024. I expect more chemistry amongst him and the wide receivers and him and the offensive line. I think that's really big. As long as everyone stays healthy, they're going to be motivated to go very far in the college football playoffs. They're going to be one of the most experienced teams in the country. I think that they have everything for Cade to be 10% better. The question is, can Antonio Williams become a 1,000-yard receiver? Can he become one of the best in the country? To me, it's a little bit harder just because Cade has got other options that are also maturing at the same rate. But it does seem like Antonio is one of those guys that you can count on more often than not. And as long as he stays healthy, which has been something that was the only reason he was kind of held back in the season before. If he stays healthy, you have to think, can he be 10% better? Can he have 12, 13 touchdowns and 1,000 yards receiving? We've seen it in the past where pass-heavy teams that Clemson has produced have been able to have 1,000, or well, I say 2, but 1 and almost 1 in T. Higgins and Justin Ross. Could this be a year where you have that as well? Honestly, I'm a little bit more doubtful about Antonio Williams just because there are many more options for Cade Klubnik. I can totally see Cade adding up and being 10% better. Will Antonio Williams be 10% better? It's almost like he doesn't even need to be 10% better. Garrett Riley and Cade Klubnik finally have a complete arsenal to work with this season, and now they should be as settled in as possible. For the first time, Cade is not starting the season off with guys that have no trust with Dabo. And that's been a big frustration for a lot of fans because we had a lot of hype around TJ Moore and Bryant Wesco, and they held them back the first part of the season. But there won't need to be that, and there won't be that in 2025. TJ Moore, Bryant Wesco, and even the spring game superstar and Tristan Smith don't need to be held back. They're going to be able to take the pressure off of Garrett Riley, take the pressure off of Cade Klubnik. They're going to be able to break out and stretch the defense. And while Antonio Williams can definitely still be that anchor, Cade's not going to have to force throws to Antonio at all. The national media is buying into Cade and Antonio being a 1-2 punch that's top 10 in the country. I'm not against that at all. But I'm a little shocked that there would even be a solid number 1 in this group. We've already mentioned the guys that you're returning from last season. You know Antonio Williams, he's back. Bryant Wesco, 700 yards. TJ Moore, almost 700 yards. Now, after that, you're kind of losing some guys, and the rest of the guys fell off a ton outside of the tight end. Jake Brenning still had 530. But Tyler Brown was injured. He only had 30 yards receiving. He's going to be back. And you have Tristan Smith to come back as well. And Cole Turner's going to be there. So there's going to be a ton of opportunity there for the ball to be shared around. And so Antonio's not going to have to be that be-all, do-all third down guy because there are multiple options. And can Williams hit 10-plus touchdowns, 1,000 yards receiving? Yeah. If things go true by that and by even mid-season, they're close to that or beyond that, I think you have a good case that they'll be a big-time duo and maybe even the top 10 in the country. Klubnik could challenge for some big-time records for Clemson. He could challenge for ACC records. And to me, solidify himself as one of the best quarterbacks that Clemson's ever had. It's kind of crazy to say that because, you know, he's come a long way and he's got a lot of criticism, and I think a lot of fair criticism over the time he's been with Clemson. And for me, Cade being a statistical leader is just part of the story. I'm not going to be satisfied with Cade walking away being a statistical leader. I know that he has the weapons. I know he has the offensive line around him and the coaching staff around him to be successful statistically. Klubnik's challenge is not going to be the record books. It's going to be the wins and losses. It's going to be the opponents that he takes down. Right now, he has nothing to write home about when it comes to beating primetime opponents in primetime. But he's going to get that in LSU game number 1, starting out right out the gate. And he has the weapons to do so, with Antonio Williams possibly being the big key for him to help him get to that elite status. Do I really think Cade and Antonio Williams will be top 10? I'm going to say they definitely can be. 10% better is all we're asking for from those two guys. And to me, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Cade is a 4,000 yard, passing season, 40 touchdown season, and 1,000 yards from Antonio Williams with 12 touchdowns. So I think it's definitely in the realm of possibility, and it could separate them two, and they could really be a contract year for these two guys. Now, I think that's one great thing about Clemson. We talked about the depth, and we did that disaster scenario where Clemson would lose a guy, and how would that work out for them? And you say it also in the wide receiver room. If you lose a guy or you have a guy that doesn't show up, if Antonio Williams has an off day or an off month, it's not really that detrimental as much as it used to be in the past. And that's what's going to be great about Clemson. That's why I think they're going to go very deep in the college football playoffs in 2025. And that's why I'm predicting them to get to the national championship game right now. Write it down, May 14th. I'm predicting them to do that because of the depth that they have behind them. All right, we're going to continue the show talking about another guy that adds more depth. We hinted to him last episode, and this is Amare Adams in the defensive tackle position. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game, even before tip-off and even while the game is live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways to win and play and win big. Now, I'm looking over at some of the options that you have on the fantasy side of things over in South Carolina. You've got a ton of NBA action coming up tonight with Boston and Golden State, both facing elimination. You have Jason Tatum, who's out with injury, Steph Curry, who's out with a hamstring injury. Who is going to step up? Who are you going to be able to get in? What elite players will you be able to count on? You'll have to go in and see and take a look at who is your best value play and who will you be able to pick and hopefully get you some big time wins out there. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head over to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Amare Adams is going to make Clemson fans forget that he's a freshman by November. He's going to have national hype around him by midseason. I truly believe it. Now, I know that you have guys in front of him, but I'm telling you, they're going to need to be able to rotate. And when you're bringing in a guy who's one of the best and most hyped players at his position as a true freshman from spring practice on, one of the best players in the country at the defensive interior line, it's not just me and a big talking head that's a huge Clemson fan and a Clemson grad talking. National media recognized him and recruiting analysts recognize him as one of the best defensive interior linemen in the country as a high school player. He's now with Clemson, and Dabo Swinney continues to call his praises. He is learning from Nick Eason, from Tom Allen, and from Peter Woods and watching TJ Parker. There's no better situation for a true freshman to come in and be mentored by two future NFL draft picks. And I'm telling you, not just two future NFL draft picks, but two guys that we have talked about over and over about how they could be first round draft picks from this Clemson season. And I'm telling you, he has a lot of opportunity, even though those guys are ahead of him. I think when you look past TJ Parker, when you look past Peter Woods, who's going to be able to fill in and be the stopgap behind? Now, there's a lot of guys that are on this roster that could be fighting for opportunities, but Amare Adams has that raw talent that you're going to want to see him in one-on-ones. You're going to want to see how much he can dominate early on in college football. I think that he's one of those guys, just like a Gideon Davidson on the defensive side of the ball, where you won't be able to keep him on the bench for very long. Same like Sammy Brown last season. He's already doing it in practice. We're already hearing a lot of good things from the coaching staff. I believe that he's going to start making headlines quick, fast, and in a hurry, if you will. And Tom Allen has already talked about him and singled him out early in spring, and Dabo Swinney's already talked about him. So it's not just me hyping this guy up. I don't have to praise him anymore because I know that you already know. You've seen his huddle film. You've seen how dominant he has been on the line of scrimmage, and you know how much I don't like to brag about him because he took down my Westside High School, my alma mater. So, you know, I don't really always like to brag about the guys that take down my alma mater in the state championship of high school, but this guy is huge because he's wearing the orange and purple. He is big time. He is big, big, big. And he's not just a true freshman. He sticks out physically. He moves extremely well. He's a massive guy. He's got the measurables that you want already as a true freshman. And when he's getting praise from guys like Tom Allen, I don't think it's just smoke. I think it does mean something. He has great traits for his age. He's not just a big dude that can push you around. He's explosive. He's twitchy. As you know, they like to say twitchy. If you're not familiar with that, what that really means is that they can make quick movements very quick, very fast, and in a hurry off the line of scrimmage, and they can kind of beat you to their first movement more than the player that you're defending against, more than the offensive lineman can. His get off the line was timed at one of the best in the country in his recruiting class. And that matters when you're going up against the best offensive lines in the country. Let's not forget that he went into put some postseason bowls and dominated there. So he's dominated high school, dominated against some of the elite in the showcase games, and now we're already hearing it in spring. Now he does have to sit behind Peter Woods, but I think that he's going to get opportunities. What DeMonte Capehart and Peter Woods cannot sit there and play the entire time. You know, they're not going to play every single snap. Now, there are other guys around him that have been on the team for longer, but you cannot hide talent, and you can't keep talent on the bench. I believe that Amare Adams, is going to play meaningful snaps right away. Now, if you tell me that's what I would do, that's what I would do. If you ask me, what is Dabo Swinney going to do? I would say probably like Sammy Brown. You know, you're not going to see him immediately against LSU in like snap number or, you know, series number 1 against LSU. Now, I know that the defensive line is definitely already loaded, and there are guys that are going to probably be ahead of him. And when you look at it, when I look at my roster, I have Caden Story. That's a guy who, you know, he was brought in with Nick Eason, and you haven't heard or seen much of him. He's a junior, a redshirt junior. Will he be able to kind of break in and get some rotation? I don't know. You really haven't heard much of Caden Story. Vic Burley, redshirt sophomore, been injured. He has the measurables to get in there. Stephylan Green as well. Champ Thompson and Heaven Brown Schuler, also guys that are redshirt freshmen that are developing as well. I can see Amare Adams jumping Champ and Heaven Brown Schuler, and that's nothing against them. It's just more about Amare Adams. Now, Stephylan Green, to me, will probably get the first nod, but why not see what Amare Adams can do? You haven't been able to see what Vic Burley or Caden Story can do themselves, actually on the football field much. So to me, I think that you have a good opportunity to get some early playing time. And rotation will be there for sure, but it comes back to the question about being redshirted or not, the question about getting meaningful snaps or not, and being one of those guys that you're going to think about and talk about mid-season. Clemson needs to stay fresh in the trenches. They need to rotate more than they have done in the past. And now that they have these guys that can play and multiple positions and that are versatile, it can be the key to kind of unlocking their full potential and getting in some freshman reps. And it kind of goes back to my whole thing about Amare Adams. If you're going to sit here and you're going to stump for Gideon Davidson, I think you also have to stump for Amare Adams. I think both those guys have that raw talent that is already able to kind of project and work at the college level, and you're going to want to see that, and it's going to be hard to keep them off the field, even though they're not perfect, even if they don't know all the plays, if they don't know all the alignments or the audibles, adjustments, whatever it may be. They have a certain level of talent that you're not going to be able to ignore. All right, we're going to talk about that first game of the season, LSU, and how Clemson will define, or it could define, their trajectory at the very beginning of the season. Clemson's week 1 clash, prime time. We're assuming it could be Chris Fowler and the gang, and it's going to be possibly game day. Week 1 clash against LSU, 7:30 p.m. ABC. It's a statement game for the Tigers. Well, both Tigers ready, really. Both Tigers need to be ready, and they need to be ready for a knockdown, drag out, and a track meet for sure. The LSU wideouts are going to come after Clemson for sure. Nick Anderson transferred from Oklahoma, didn't play, but is going to be coming back, and they expect him to be in the rotation. Barian Brown is a guy that you will definitely know if you're a Clemson fan, because in the Gator Bowl when he was with Kentucky, another transfer guy, he scored 3 different ways for the Wildcats. He scored touchdown receiving and rushing and returning. And now he's paired with Garrett Nussmeier, who a lot of people are saying could be one of the best quarterbacks in the country, a first-round draft pick, might be the most explosive player that Clemson is facing. And it was a battle because of him. You remove him, and it was that Kentucky game was not a battle. Add him in there, and that made it very difficult and almost unbeatable. They were in it for sure. He scared Clemson a ton. So Barian Brown is a guy that you have to be circled for sure. One of the most explosive players. And I think the running backs as well. When you look at Caden Durham, Caleb Jackson, TJ Lindsey, these guys, Harlem Berry, these guys are guys that they're going to rotate around. Durham is going to be a guy to really hit you. And I could see him breaking off a bunch of big runs if Clemson's not careful. If they fix their problems, I'm not as worried about it. And we feel like Clemson has fixed their problems in the rushing defense. But have they or not, truly? Because these guys are a very young rotation, and they're going to come at you fast with many different levels and different skill sets, much like Clemson is going to be able to do as well. But the question is, who's going to hold up better against the run? Is it going to be Clemson? Is it going to be LSU? I would hope, being home field advantage and with having Tom Allen now, and with the additions that they've done this offseason, I think Clemson has the edge here. But if you ask an LSU fan, they're going to say we're crazy to even say that. This is the biggest non-conference game in possibly many years for Dabo Swinney, even if you talk about Georgia, because both teams will possibly be top 10. This is the first time that they've played in a true campus site, not in a postseason matchup or a preseason matchup, postseason matchup. This is a big time test for Garrett Riley, Cade Klubnik, Dabo Swinney to see if 100% are they playoff ready or not. Have they made it to the pinnacle of their talent and their skill level and their cohesiveness as a coach and a player? Can Cade Klubnik get over the hump and win the big game once and for all? The media will be watching this closely. They're comparing LSU to Clemson already. We'll get into it as the offseason goes on. I'm kind of holding back my thoughts on the comparison of the team, but there's going to be a huge amount of national buzz. How will Clemson's secondary stack up against their wide receivers? That's a big unknown for me. How will Clemson's defensive front stop their rushing attack? That's also a big unknown, because we think it's improved. We feel like it's improved. We've been encouraged that Dabo has done the right things to improve it. But has it actually improved on the field? Now, Tom Allen and his defense will be tested immediately from the jump. You're going to have this rushing attack with multiple guys coming at you. They're going to be able to rotate in and stay fresh. But then you're going to have Barian Brown that flustered Wes Goodwin a ton and needed Cade Klubnik to keep him in the game and win that game. So Tom Allen's defense, is he going to allow Barian Brown to just run all over him and do everything he wants? Or is Clemson's secondary and linebackers going to be able to communicate properly with the tempo that you're probably going to get and the motion that you're going to get from LSU? Tom Allen is going to have to earn his paycheck early this season, and it starts with LSU. Clemson needs to start aggressively. They need to take the momentum of having a home game, and they cannot wait until week 5, 6, 7 to get hot. They're going to have a big-time heavyweight punch from LSU. They're going to have a chip on their shoulder to say, hey, you know what? We can handle the hype around the most exciting 25 seconds in all of college football. We can handle hype around Death Valley. We can prove to you that our stadium is actually true Death Valley and your Death Valley is nothing. The worst case scenario is what we've seen in the past is Clemson and a Dabo Swinney-led team coming out flat. I used to joke, it's like Dabo would talk about, we got to win the middle 8. And while, yeah, I want to win the middle 8 of the game, I don't want to play like crap for the other rest of the game. No, I don't want 42 minutes of crap and the middle 8 being awesome. I don't want that at all. So they can't come out sluggish and slow and waiting for the next week, because this is going to be on national television in prime time. All eyes are going to be on, is Clemson for real? Are the veterans that returning? Can they do it? Can Cade Klubnik actually get that marquee win? And has Dabo made the right moves in the offseason to improve his team or just keep it all the same? I think, my answers to those would be more positive to Clemson than negative. But at the end of the day, they have to play the game and they have to win it out there. Is this a must win for Clemson's playoff hopes? I won't call it a must win because it is still the first game, the very first game of the season, and you can rebound. We've seen it many times. And with the 12-team playoff, you don't have to be perfect, especially in the non-conference games. But I will say this. I don't want another season of Clemson not controlling their own destiny. So if they lose in the first game of the season, while they still control their own destiny, they're going to have to do a lot of proving it out there. They're going to have to start winning games by more convincing ways, because the national media is going to say, yeah, you beat all those ACC teams, but I don't want another season of the buts associated with Clemson and their schedule and who they played in their wins and losses. 2024 was a season of buts. Yeah, you got into the ACC championship game, but you needed help from Syracuse. But you lost 3 games against the 3 hardest teams you played. Yeah, you pushed Texas to the limit. You gave them a good run, but you still lost and you still maybe squeaked your way in anyways. I don't want a butt season from Clemson at all. I want Clemson to come out and prove that they're back, that they're at an elite level. They've done all the right things in the offseason. We've heard all the things we want to hear. They didn't stay the same. As much as you can talk about Dabo Swinney being stuck in his ways, that's the one thing he didn't do in 2024's offseason. He didn't stay stuck in his ways. He made changes that were appropriate and everybody agreed with. Now I want to see it on the football field and see exactly what they can do. But it's really up to them. All right. Hey, thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen today. For your second listen, make sure to check out Locked On NFL Draft with Damon Parson and Keith Sanchez. As your favorite college players are going to the next level, you'll see the latest draft rankings for next season and also rumors and news every single day about the draft and the NFL. Find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And as always, Tiger fans, hey, that's it for today's show. Thank you so much. Don't forget to follow me over on X at The Morgan T Show and comment if you're on YouTube or give me a shout over on X. Thank you so much again. We appreciate it. And as always, Tiger fans, I'll see you at the top of the hill.